And the Spider-Man 3, Rob. Spider-Man 3 soap
Are they
opera.
making Spider-Man 3?
It continues to spin, Rob. It continues to go. Of course, a lot of rumors, misdirects, confirmations, debunking and all this kind of stuff. Okay, so here's the story, guys. If you guys will remember, some reports came out, really rumors more than reports, but that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were going to appear in Spider-Man 3. At first, I was like, that sounds a little too far out there. I didn't buy into it at first, but we keep our eyes open on it. Then we started to hear other kind of supporting, anecdotal, granted, but anecdotal and circumstantial evidence coming along. And while we have never gotten any confirmation from anybody in an actual position to officially confirm that Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire were going to appear in Spider-Man 3, I actually came around to believing that they are. I believe that they are. I don't know that they are. Again, we've seen no solid evidence, and we've heard nothing from actually people in power confirming that they will be there, granted. But I've kind of come around to kind of believing that they will pop up in there. I think they will. Now, Rob, you remember that the other day, the story got a little more interesting because Tom Holland came out and said, look, I don't even know if they're in it, said Tom Holland, who's probably the worst guy at running his mouth in the MCU. And I say this is a guy who loves Tom Holland. I love the kid. I think he's wonderful. But, he's become known. It's the running joke that he's the guy who lets things slip. So he thought, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Tom Holland is now taking it one step further. In an interview with Esquire, he's gone now beyond saying, I don't know if Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in Spider-Man 3. He's now saying definitively, no, they're not in it. This is what he said. When Esquire asked him about it, he said, no, they will not be appearing in this film, talking about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Unless they have hidden the most massive piece of information from me, which I think is too big of a secret for them to keep from me, but as of yet, no. It'll be a continuation of the Spider-Man movies that we've been making. So Tom Holland has skipped from, I don't know if they're in it, to no, they will not be appearing in this film unless they're keeping it from me, but it's too big of a thing to be able to keep from me, blah, blah, blah. Now, that isn't the only thing he said. He then, of course, went on to say, I honestly have no idea what the film is about. I have no idea what the film's about, and I'm 8 weeks into shooting it. They do it all the time. In Endgame, Robert Downey Jr.'s funeral scene, for the longest time, I was under the impression that it was a wedding scene. I am 100% sure that they're still tricking me. So, on the one hand, he's saying, no, Rob, they're not in this movie. I mean, they could be keeping a secret, but it's too big of a thing to keep a secret. I would know they're not in it. But at the same time, he's saying, but they've tricked me before. We thought we were shooting a wedding scene. Really? You thought everybody wearing black was a wedding scene? Sure, whatever. Let's run with that.
Well,
so I mean, everybody looking sad and morbid and all wearing black, and you thought that was a wedding scene. Okay, let's just go with that for now. But look, this kind of like Rob when he came out and said that he didn't know if they were in there. We said there are two possibilities. One is that, hey, no, seriously, Disney has learned their lesson and they're keeping certain things from him. That's possible. But you and I both felt like the more probable thing was this was Tom Holland learning the game and deciding to throw a little bit of misdirect out there. And you and I both believe that he does indeed know if they're in it and he's just pretending that he doesn't know. He's doubling down now. Now he's saying, no, it's not just that I don't know. Look, they're not in it. They're not in it. They are not in this movie. I still contend, Rob, that he could be telling the truth and they are in it. And here's what I mean by that. He could be telling the truth because I've said, while I do believe that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire will pop up in this movie, I also believe it's going to be a very small kind of thing that they pop up as. Or pop up in. I don't think it'll be long. I think it is completely possible that in Tom Holland's mind, he doesn't think they're showing up in this movie, but maybe Marvel will slip them in there in a small way in which that Tom Holland wouldn't even notice that they're there. I think that's possible. it is, of course, still possible, Rob, that he's telling the plain truth factually, and Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are not in this movie. I mean, the reality is, up until now, we have still received no confirmation from anybody in a position to do so that they're in it. All we've heard is whispers and rumors and made up things and all that kind of stuff that have led, but there's been enough of it to lead me to believe that they are going to be there. So I don't know. I still think Tom Holland is maybe, in the words of Shakespeare, she does protest too much. I think he's protesting too much. I still think he's just covering. I think they will be there, but we don't know for sure. Rob, you hear Tom Holland saying these things that he's saying now. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I look at it this way. I think that maybe they sent Tom Holland to spoiler therapy, where he's been talking with a spoiler therapist for a long time, and the therapist has taught him how to redirect his opinions. So in his mind, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are not in the movie. However, there are other Spider-Men and other Peter Parkers in the movie. So if someone asks him, are Tobey Maguire and Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in this movie? Tom Holland thinks, no. There are, however, alternate Peter Parkers and alternate versions of Spider-Man, but you didn't ask me that question, so I don't have to answer. I'm answering truthfully. There's nobody named Tobey Maguire that's actually in the film. They're not in the script, and there's no one named Andrew Garfield in this movie either. All I've dealt with is other Peter Parkers and other Spider-Mans, but you didn't ask me that question, so I'm going to answer truthfully.
Are you saying he's pulling an Obi-Wan Kenobi, that what I told you was true from a certain point of view? Is that what he's doing?
Probably. Look, if Evan Peters is in WandaVision, I think that all human beings are sometimes, they deal with trauma and mystery in different ways. Perhaps, we all tell ourselves what we need to tell ourselves to get through the day. No one can delude themselves more than we can. And I think the spoiler therapist has conditioned Mr. Holland to give answers that will no longer piss Kevin Feige off. And I think he's learned his lesson. So I think we should take everything that falls out of that young boy's mouth. Well, he's not a young boy now. I guess he's in his 20s, with a grain of salt, John. A grain of salt. Yeah, that's the way I see it. I still
tell me if you think there's a fourth. So right now, to me, there are three options here. Option number one is that he is telling the truth, and that is the truth. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are not in this movie. Option number two, he thinks he's telling the truth. He's not aware. Disney is literally keeping it from him, that they make some kind of cameo or whatever in it. And that's a possibility. Option number three is that he has learned, after many, many mistakes, to hide what's going on in the MCU. I personally lean towards that one. It sounds like that's what you are too. So I don't know. Do you see a fourth option here? Those are the three options I see in front of us. Is there a fourth, do you think?
Maybe Nicholas Hammond, the original Spider-Man from TV in the late 70s. Maybe he's in the movie.
He pops up.
Or maybe the Spider-Man from the Electric Company is in this movie. You just never know. With the multiverse of madness happening, gosh, with Wanda ripping apart reality, who knows, John? Maybe I am playing Spider-Man in the film, but I'll never tell.
You heard it here first, folks. Okay, question is, you guys, what do you think about Tom Holland's comments now? He's moved beyond saying, I don't know, to no, they're not in the movie. They couldn't hide this from me. Yeah, sure. Anyway, but maybe you guys think it's one of those three options. Maybe they're really not. Maybe he thinks they're not and they are, or maybe he knows damn well that they are, and he's just trying to show Kevin Feige that he's learned his lesson. Which of those options do you guys believe? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.